She did not arrive in handcuffs under flashing lights. There was no dramatic airport takedown or media spectacle. Instead, on a quiet morning in July 2020, federal agents approached a secluded property in New Hampshire and arrested a woman who had spent most of her life hiding in plain sight. Within hours, her name echoed across the world. For decades, she had moved effortlessly through rooms most people never see, dining with royalty, vacationing with billionaires, and presenting herself as a refined philanthropist. Now she was being described as the central enabler of one of the most disturbing criminal networks of the modern era. Her name was Ghislaine Maxwell, and to understand how she reached this moment, you have to look far beyond her connection to Jeffrey Epstein. You have to understand the world that shaped her, the lessons she learned about power and silence, and the choices she made long before the public ever knew who she was. This is not just the story of a crime. It is the story of a woman raised to believe that loyalty to power mattered more than anything else, even truth. Ghislaine Maxwell was born on December 25, 1961, in Maisons-Laffitte, a wealthy suburb outside Paris, France. She was the youngest of 9 children in a family defined by ambition, dominance, and excess. Her father, Robert Maxwell, was one of the most powerful media figures in Europe. Her mother, Elizabeth Maynard, was French, elegant, and deeply invested in status and presentation. From the start, Ghislaine lived in a world few people ever experience. The Maxwell family owned multiple estates across Europe, employed full-time staff, and traveled constantly. Private yachts, chauffeurs, and luxury hotels were normal parts of life. Money was not just security, it was identity. Robert Maxwell was a towering figure, both physically and psychologically. He ruled his household with intimidation and demanded absolute loyalty. Former employees and family friends later described him as brilliant but volatile, capable of warmth one moment and rage the next. In the Maxwell home, children learned quickly that obedience was rewarded and defiance was punished. Ghislaine was widely believed to be her father's favorite. She was sharp, charming, and socially fluent. She learned how to listen carefully, mirror powerful personalities, and make herself indispensable. These skills were not accidental. They were survival tools in a household where attention equaled safety. Ghislaine received an elite education, attending prestigious schools in England, before enrolling at Oxford University, where she studied modern history. At Oxford, she was not known for academic brilliance so much as for her confidence and social ease. She understood hierarchy instinctively and knew how to position herself within it. One lesser-known detail from this period is how carefully she cultivated relationships with influential classmates and donors. She gravitated toward people with connections, not just charisma. This was not coincidence. It reflected lessons learned at home, where influence was currency. She also developed a polished international identity. Fluent in multiple languages, comfortable in elite settings, and impeccably mannered, she could move seamlessly between cultures. This ability would later make her exceptionally effective at gaining trust. Unlike many people her age, Ghislaine did not need to build a career. Her role was social. She represented the family, maintained connections, and reinforced the Maxwell name. That role shaped her sense of self. She was not a creator, she was a facilitator. Everything changed in November 1991. Robert Maxwell fell from his yacht, the Lady Ghislaine, near the Canary Islands, and was later found in the water. Authorities ruled that he had unalived, though speculation has never fully disappeared. Within days, a far larger shock followed. Investigations revealed that Robert Maxwell had secretly taken hundreds of millions of pounds from employee pension funds to prop up his failing businesses. His media empire collapsed almost overnight. The family fortune vanished. Lawsuits followed. The Maxwell name became synonymous with fraud and betrayal. For Ghislaine, this was more than financial ruin. It was the destruction of the structure that had defined her life. Her father, protector, and authority figure was gone. The power that shielded her family evaporated. Friends distanced themselves. Doors closed. Many people do not realize how destabilizing this moment was for her. She was 29 years old, grieving, financially uncertain, and suddenly without a role. She relocated to New York City, a move that would change everything. In the early 1990s, New York was a magnet for wealth and ambition. It was also where Ghislaine met the man who would define her future, Jeffrey Epstein. Epstein presented himself as a wealthy financier with elite connections. His background was murky, but his money was real. He owned a Manhattan mansion, private planes, and properties in Florida and the Caribbean. He also craved legitimacy. Ghislaine and Epstein connected quickly. Each had something the other needed. Epstein offered financial security and a sense of purpose. Ghislaine offered social credibility, refinement, and access to elite circles Epstein could not penetrate alone. Their relationship was intense and intertwined. She managed his homes, scheduled his meetings, curated his guest lists, and acted as his public-facing partner. For years, they were rarely seen apart. What most people do not realize is how much Epstein's image depended on her. Before Ghislaine, he was wealthy but awkward. With her, he became a host to scientists, politicians, royalty, and cultural figures. She taught him how to dress, how to speak, and how to behave in elite company. Publicly, Ghislaine Maxwell presented herself as a philanthropist and socialite. She founded environmental charities, attended galas, and spoke about ocean conservation. These causes were genuine interests, but they also served another purpose. They provided cover, credibility, and access. Privately, according to later testimony, her role was far darker. Prosecutors alleged that Ghislaine was not a passive observer in Epstein's crimes, but an active organizer. Survivors described how she recruited underage girls, gained their trust, and normalized SAID behavior. She was accused of grooming, instructing, and enforcing silence. One detail that often shocks people is how methodical the operation was. Ghislaine allegedly kept schedules, set rules, and punished disobedience. She was described as controlling and authoritative, not hesitant or confused. Survivors said she framed involvement as an opportunity, something exclusive and sophisticated. This mirrored how she herself had been raised to see proximity to power as a reward. Ghislaine's power was not physical, it was psychological. She understood aspiration and insecurity. She knew how to flatter, how to promise, and how to make people feel chosen. She often positioned herself as a mentor. She spoke calmly, sometimes kindly, even while enforcing boundaries that served Epstein. This contrast made situations confusing and harder to resist. Another lesser-known aspect is how she used her accent, education, and manners as tools. Parents trusted her, schools did not question her, authority figures assumed legitimacy. Her background acted as armor. For many survivors, the betrayal was especially painful because it came from a woman they believed they could trust. After Epstein's legal troubles became widely known, Ghislaine traveled frequently and avoided interviews. She spent time in Europe and remote locations. When Epstein was arrested again in July 2019 on federal charges, she vanished from public view. 1 month later, Epstein was found unresponsive in his jail cell and later pronounced unlived. The circumstances of his unliving triggered global outrage and suspicion. Attention turned immediately to Ghislaine. Where was she? What did she know? Why had she not been charged? For nearly a year, she remained hidden. On July 2, 2020, federal agents arrested Ghislaine Maxwell at a secluded home in Bradford, New Hampshire. She had been living under an assumed name, reportedly with minimal security. Her trial began in November 2021 in New York. Over several weeks, jurors heard testimony from survivors who described her role in recruitment and abuse. The defense argued that she was being scapegoated for Epstein's crimes. On December 29, 2021, she was convicted on multiple federal charges related to trafficking minors. In June 2022, she was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Ghislaine Maxwell was not raised to question power, she was raised to serve it. Loyalty to dominant men shaped her identity from childhood. Another lesser-known trait was her adaptability. She could shift interests, accents, and personas depending on her audience. This chameleon-like ability helped her survive dramatic changes in fortune. She was also deeply invested in denial. Even as accusations mounted, she refused to accept responsibility. This may have been a coping mechanism rooted in earlier trauma and loss. Her conviction closed one chapter but left many questions unanswered. How many people enabled the system? How did wealth and status shield wrongdoing for so long? Ghislaine Maxwell's story is not just about crime, it is about how privilege distorts morality and how silence becomes complicity. She was shaped by power, protected by it, and ultimately destroyed by it. Thank you for watching and taking the time to engage with this story. The case involving Ghislaine Maxwell continues to spark strong reactions and difficult conversations around power, accountability, and silence. What do you think about her role in this case and the outcome? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you found this video valuable, please like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you never miss future investigations.